I'm here with another segment of Intro to Gaming in Libraries. So in the past, I have covered starting your own collections within your library. So looking at the accessories, the console itself, the televisions, the monitors that you may need to actually start a video game collection from the ground up, or if you're running in-house programming, sort of collecting what you need to make sure that you have everything so that players can play games. And so for this evening, what I will be doing is covering sort of the top games, and again from my own perspective, but the top 10 games within each of the three major console providers. So the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4 and 5, and the Xbox One, as well as Series S and X. The top 10 games for each one of those. Now, there may be some little extra games snuck in just because it is a lot of systems to cover and a lot of games to cover. Please, if you do have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to drop a question in the chat. I am happy to answer anything there. As well, don't hesitate to go to twitch.tv/Chris the Gaming Librarian, where you can find other videos. So things like my new game reviews, other episodes of Intro to Gaming in Libraries, as well as my Let's Play series to get a feel for other games that have recently come out and that I've really enjoyed. As well, on the main page of my twitch.tv page, there is a link to my Discord where I post things like this PowerPoint for you to look at whenever you wish. So without further ado, let us get started. Alrighty, so top 10 games for your gaming collection. So we'll start off with the Nintendo Switch. The reason I'm starting off with the Switch, this has, in my opinion, been the easiest console to introduce into a library space, whether it's to lend out these games or introducing these games into the library for programming purposes. So as I go along, I'll periodically drop suggestions that you may want to use for programming purposes. Again, my background is as a teen librarian, so working predominantly with those who are 10 through 18 years of age. But again, for a lot of these games, adults enjoy playing Mario Kart, for example, just as much as kids do. And introducing things like Mario Kart, for example, to families is also a great way to bridge that gap. So you're appeasing both child and adult patrons at the same time. So, first and foremost, this should be a common one that you've seen everywhere, and if not, that is totally fine. But Smash Brothers Ultimate is the latest game in a long-running series. This game is a fighting-based game, taking popular characters from Nintendo franchises. So, as you can see in the forefront, popular, well-known characters like Mario, Link from the Zelda franchise, Inkling Girl from Splatoon, Kirby, so on and so forth, and puts them into a fighting arena. Now, this is not your traditional fighting game. There's no blood and gore. It is very cartoonish violent. They're just basically punching and kicking. Every once in a while, items do come down that you can use. So you can use bombs to explode opponents off of stages. You can use swords to hack and slash. But again, no blood, no gore. So it's a very family-friendly fighting game, especially for those who might be hesitant to enter in to that genre of gaming and want something that isn't as violent as traditional fighting games would be, like Dead or Alive or Mortal Kombat, for example. It is a 2018 title, but the wonderful thing about Smash Brothers is that it is one of Nintendo's main franchise games that is constantly updated through downloadable content. What I mean by this is that so far there are 2 fighter packs, which add an additional 13 characters now, with 2 remaining characters to be announced at some point in the future. So it really does extend the game by offering more characters and more stages. This game in particular has been very popular within my library because I've used it for programming purposes. Every Wednesday, I would run a video game-centric program for an hour where I would use my own Switch console as well as the library Switch consoles, would sync them up on several TVs, and one on the big projector screen, and often the one on the biggest screen in that room was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. On the smaller screens will be some of the games that I will highlight as I go along. But this game is definitely up there, along with Mario Kart, as a game that you can introduce to basically anyone of any age, whether they're new or veteran to video games, and they will have a blast with it. So, naturally, if I'm going to talk about Smash Brothers, I'm also going to talk about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as the perfect pairing when it comes to video games and video game programming. Again, older title, so 2017, but as you can tell in the title, it says Deluxe, meaning that this has every single track that was available in Mario Kart 8, as well as a whole slew of characters. Again, similar to Super Smash Brothers, this is the game that I bring out when I encounter patrons, friends, and basically those who are new to gaming in general, who say, I've never played a game before and I don't know where to start. And I go, all right, do you enjoy driving a go-kart? Have you ever done that at some point in your life? Or do you drive a car, but have always wanted to maybe do something crazy and reckless? Well, here's Mario Kart 8. And this is a great game just for introducing gamers to gaming. Very simple premise. You're in karts. You're driving around, you're using items like shells or banana peels to take down your opponents around you. There's other battle modes, again, using items, but it doesn't always have to be racing based. Sometimes it can just be a battle course, but it's one of those very simple ones that have very intuitive controls to it that I recommend right off the bat to those who are sort of new to gaming or new to the Nintendo Switch and are looking for an ideal game to have. During my gaming hour, this was a very popular title to have on one of the subsequent screens, if not up on the large screen. A recent re-release of Super Mario 3D World has just come out on the Nintendo Switch back in February. And so in a slew of Super Mario titles, and there is a literal sea, there's Super Mario Odyssey, there's Super Mario Bros. Wii U Deluxe that came out on the Nintendo Switch. I find Super Mario 3D World the most accessible. I say this because it has the most intuitive mechanics. It's fun, it's creative. Instead of just being on a 2D plane, it sort of gives you a bird's eye view of your character in a 3D world as it moves around. The power-ups are really unique. As you can see here, Cat Mario is sort of the reigning champion and suit to have, but you have your classics like the Tanuki suit as well as others that allow you to explore the world in different ways, and in classic Mario style there are a multitude of worlds, so just when you think you've finished the game, there's always a secret level more to go and complete. Now, because this is a re-release of a 2013 title from the Wii U console, so the predecessor to the Nintendo Switch, they've included a extra campaign called Bowser's Fury, which is very similar to Super Mario Odyssey in the sense that you are a singular character. It's now third person, so you're behind Mario and following them around, and your objective is to take down a corrupted Bowser. It's a very short campaign. Typically doesn't take any longer than 12 to 15 hours to complete. I know for my stepchildren it took about that in length to finish, but it's a nice little additive to a game where if you feel like you've played this in the past and don't wish to re-explore it, it's definitely worth it for Bowser's Fury. And again, 4-player co-op, so really fantastic for any sort of gaming programming that you're doing. A lot of the Nintendo Switch titles that I will bring up today are multiplayer centric, and almost all of them at some point I've had in various programming that I run with my Tens to Teens group or with my adult groups when we met in person. Now, Super Mario Maker 2 is a very unique title. So unlike your Super Mario 3D World or Super Mario Bros., what Super Mario Maker does is it gives you the template of most Mario games that you can think of, whether they're 2D or 3D on the 2D plane. And they say, here are all the building blocks of a Mario game. Go at it, create your own levels, and experiment. And so I absolutely love this game for the fact that it's, I'm not sure, it's like Nintendo's version of Lego, so to speak. And that's how I always pitch it to those who are sort of skeptical about picking up this game or maybe new to it. It is a co-op experience, so you can do either 1 or 2 players, and you can have fun either creating your own levels and then testing them out, or as this is now a 2-year-old game, there is a plethora of online levels that have been uploaded online to Nintendo servers that you can then download yourself. And so some of them range from very creative, you just press a controller and auto run your character along to a sequence, all the way up to mind-bogglingly difficult and challenging courses to go through. So depending on your level of talent or the patrons that you're serving, they can choose what they wish to play. This is just a really unique Mario title. I like having creative building games in my library's gaming collection because it offers something different. It makes people think outside the box. It's not just something that is platforming or a shooter or a adventure game where you are thinking maybe you're doing some puzzles along the way, but you're not sort of putting on that creative cap to really go out of your way to do something unique and different. Super Mario Maker 2 allows you to do that. I've also really enjoyed this game with the subsequent updates that they've released, and recently, within the last year, they've also released a small DLC pack free of charge that's filled with Zelda-related items, which I thought was really cool. So suddenly you get to create your own Zelda 2D world with your classic Link. And yes, you can shoot the laser beam from the sword, which I thought was really enjoyable. And you get a little bow and arrow too. I forgot to put this one on the list, but while I am talking about Super Mario related games, please also take the time, if you know your community are fans of puzzle games, to look into Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. So if you pick up Super Mario 3D World, what started off as a sequence of little mini games, puzzle mini games in that title, where you have a little toad wearing an explorer's costume, trying to find gems amidst these 3D puzzle levels that you sort of rotate and pivot the camera around to see the different angles and secret hidden areas that exist. What they did was they took that and expanded it into a full game and then some. And so Captain Toad Treasure Tracker has been an absolute favorite of mine. I know my wife, who was a little reluctant at first to play video games with me, I said, okay, let's play Mario Kart. And we had fun and she kicked my butt at it. But then I showed her Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and she fell in love because it was something that was different and unique. So in that realm, Super Mario Maker 2, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, both fantastic titles to add to your collection. TowerFall is a very unique pixelated 2D platforming game with a very simple premise. As you can tell from the character in the top left corner, you have a bow and arrow, and it is your job to take down other players with you. This is a fun multiplayer game that allows up to 6 people to join in all at once on the Switch, and you can play with one half of a Joy-Con, and very simple buttons. You move around with the main joystick, and then you have a button to jump, another button to shoot arrows out of your bow, and that is it. You jump around, you shoot arrows at one another. It does have the clever mechanic of once you shoot an arrow, it doesn't just replenish in your ammo stock. You actually have to go retrieve the arrow back if you want to have more arrows, and you are limited to just 3 when you start off. So it creates for a little bit of a frantic multiplayer experience, but it was one of these hidden gems that one day on a whim I showed to my team patrons in our video gaming program, and it became a hit. It blew up right away, and then every single week that was the only game that they wanted to play. Now, I will point out, unlike the other titles that will come in a physical format, so on a cartridge, TowerFall is digital only, so you do have to download it from the eShop. That being said, it often goes on sale, and so you can get it for anywhere between $8 to $12 Canadian, so roughly about $4 to $10 American. And again, if my conversion rates are off, my apologies. ARMS is a 2017 title, so one of the launch titles that came with the Nintendo Switch, and personally one of the most unique and entertaining fighting games that exist out there. So before there was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there was ARMS on the console, and the mechanic behind this, as you can see, is your fighters have springy arms, meaning that you can be a distance away and you can throw a punch and that springy arm goes out and can hit your opponent. You can switch out the springy arm, so it's not always punching gloves on the ends of them. Sometimes they are shurikens, sometimes they are dragon heads that shoot laser beams. But it was a very bright, colorful, vibrant game, and it was one that highlighted the motion controls on the Switch. So this does allow for up to 4 players, but what I really enjoyed about this game in particular, and every time I played it with my library group during our video gaming hour, was that I would have them play with motion controls. So you take the Joy-Cons off the console, and with a Joy-Con in each hand, what you can do is you can physically throw the punches as you go along, so you're getting a bit of exercise. And just like in the game with the characters, because you can curve shots as you throw a punch, depending on how you angle the controller as you go out, you can sort of twist the punches themselves and angle the arms in cool and unique ways. So really enjoyable game. It is a launch title, so it's a little bit older, but it received a lot of free DLC. So there were at least 4 or 5 additional characters added, as well as stages. And so I really enjoy Nintendo for adding on a lot of free content to their games to sort of extend the longevity of them. Now, 2020 was a big year for this game in particular. Everywhere that I went, all I heard about was Among Us. And so obviously I had to put it on my top 10 recommendation list. Very simple premise. You are a space person on a derelict ship, and you are trying to figure out who is suspect among you. And so among all of you, or among us, there is one imposter, or up to 3, depending on how many players you have in a world at once. What I really enjoy about this game is, yes, it's available on the Nintendo Switch, as well as the PC currently, and I know there's plans to release this on the Xbox and the PlayStation series of consoles. But what I really enjoy about this is that if you own it on the Nintendo Switch, so long as you're hooked up online and you set a online match, what this allows you to do is talk with other players who might be playing on PC. So this is great for virtual programming, as well as players playing on mobile to join in with your game. Outside of that, you can also play locally with up to 10 players. And it's just a really fun gaming experience. And right now, I know amongst my tens to teens crowd that I engage with through virtual programming, they cannot get enough of this game. So I often, will have one main game that I play with them. Often Fortnite, Rocket League, or Super Smash Brothers, or Mario Kart. But I'll supplement it with a round or two of Among Us, either to start off the program sequence or to close it off. And again, similar to TowerFall, this is a digital only title, so it's not physical, but because it's digital only, it is quite cheap on the eShop. Again, regular price is about $12 Canadian, but you can sometimes find it on sale for about $8 or so. And it is absolutely free of charge on mobile. There are just ads associated with it. So if you don't have a Nintendo Switch, but you do have a cell phone or a tablet that your work uses, you can download it there and play for free with your patrons. Animal Crossing New Horizon was also another big game on the Nintendo Switch in 2020. So very simple premise to this game. You have your own island that you need to make into a home. So you're deserted on this island and you need to create a house and a village that will then invite and encourage other villagers to join with you. For not the first time in the franchise, but certainly one of the easiest implementations of online in this franchise. New Horizons allows you to play with other players, so they can come and visit your island, you can go and visit theirs, and so it allows you to have up to 3 other visitors on your island at once. So it's a really enjoyable experience, and depending whether you're playing online and want to share friend codes, or if you're playing locally, so in the same room or building but socially distanced, you can do local play and visit each other's islands. This is a really fantastic one to add to your collection. This one in particular, we have 2 copies of at my library, and it just continues circulating like it's going out of style, essentially. Again, there has been a number of free updates that sort of expand the game, make it more interesting, add seasonal items, and really make this a one-of-a-kind experience to have. In terms of programming, you can do thematic-based ones, so it doesn't always have to be within the video game that you're running a program. And I should have said this with Among Us as well. You can do very physical programs, so whether you're wanting to do a murder mystery based around Among Us in the library, where your patrons have to find clues to solve the case of who is the suspicious imposter amongst everyone, or with Animal Crossing, this is a fantastic opportunity and the program that I've wanted to experiment with, where you have to sort of create your own village and sort of what would be the things that you would implement, or giving tens to teens, for example, random items that they then have to craft something from, as crafting is a huge component of Animal Crossing within the game itself. So a lot of things that you can do. In particular, I know one of my favorite uses of Animal Crossing actually with libraries has been libraries creating their own islands that sort of promote and advertise their library, what materials they have, and some of the events that they can go and see. So again, another launch title for Nintendo Switch, but an absolute classic. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an absolute staple to have in your Nintendo Switch collection at your library. Again, I don't think there has been a lone sequence at our library where this hasn't been taken out. I think from the moment we got it at our library, it has circulated every single week. And it's just one of those games that's, open world. Anywhere that you look around you can go. You can climb. You can battle if you want to. If you don't want to battle, you can just sneak around. You can do the puzzles. For myself, the playtime that it took me to beat the majority of this game was about 150 hours. So again, a lot of time with our loading periods. I often find our patrons are taking it out twice to get the fullest experience from this game. So it's guaranteed to at least circulate twice to one person so that they can actually beat the game in full. And with hope of a sequel to this game coming out in the next couple of years, there's no better time than the present to add this all-time masterpiece to your collection. Again, in terms of programming, if you wanted to do something Breath of the Wild themed, you can create your own Master Sword or Hylian Shield. You can craft tunics. That would be really fun to make. Or you can experiment with cooking. As odd as it seems, there's a lot of emphasis on a fun little experiment that you can do is sort of putting together random edible items that may taste good together, like fruits and vegetables, and seeing what people come up with. This last one I've added because it is coming out this Friday. And so it's a very unique, one-of-a-kind game. If you've played the game Dreams on the PlayStation 4 console, you'll understand the premise of it. And so Game Builder Garage, as the name alludes to, is a game that allows you to build your own games. And so what Game Builder Garage does is it gives you a whole bunch of simple to use buttons that are commands. So it's using coding language like turn left, go forward, repeat, loop, that sort of thing in cute little character forms, and you just link them together in sequences that go along. And for example, as you can see here, there's a little finger on the screen sort of putting those commands together, and what it's doing is it's telling this robot character what to do as it goes along. So it's telling the robot to move forward and then jump up and jump up again. From all the previews I've seen, I think this is going to be an absolute hit. So for those who want to learn how to build their own games through coding, instead of using pre-made and preset, Mario elements like you would see in Super Mario Maker 2, this game is going to be one to pick up. Best part about it is absolutely at a bargain deal. So it's $40 Canadian, brand new, coming out this Friday. So about $30 American. Really cheap software. They've promised that you're going to be able to upload your courses and games that you create online. There's already a whole bunch that have been created by professionals at Nintendo that you can download onto your console itself. And it really looks like an interesting and fun package that Nintendo has produced here. And so I will definitely, if you keep an eye open, certainly this Friday and likely on Monday for my new game review, we'll be looking at Game Builder Garage in more depth. Now, for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 series of consoles, I have combined this sequence together. And so I will make note of when there are PlayStation 5 exclusive games. Otherwise, the majority of the PlayStation 4 games that you're going to see, if not all of them actually in this list, will work on the PlayStation 5 with ease. Now, often PlayStation and especially Xbox tend to get the label of being mature consoles for a mature audience. So more more geared towards teenagers and adults rather than families and children. However, there are games on this console and plenty of them that argue otherwise. And so Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which released last year, as well as the preceding games in this series, which was called Little Big Planet, featuring, as you can tell, Sackboy, are great family-friendly titles to have in your collection. Sackboy is a platformer, so very similar to Mario. You're going around a 3D world as a 3D character, and you're exploring. It rewards you wandering off the beaten path to find secrets and different collectibles within the game world. It also has one of my all-time favorite levels, because the Media Molecule, the creators behind this game, are absolutely talented folks who love music. And so Hidden Within Sackboy is definitely a fan favorite of mine, set to one of my favorite David Bowie songs. So I won't spoil it for you, but this is definitely a game worth checking out and picking up, and it's fun for all ages. Again, if you have a PlayStation in your library for programming purposes, introduce this in the video gaming hour. You can also do outside of the box programming, like encouraging participants to maybe do a hands-on program where you sew your own Sackboy character using odds and ends of fabric, for example. Ghost of Tsushima came out last year from studio Sucker Punch, so very talented group of folks with a long lineage on the PlayStation. They're very well known for their Infamous series, as well as doing, if I'm not mistaken, Sly Cooper. And so Ghost of Tsushima is set in feudal Japan, where you are playing as a protagonist conflicted with his own internal torment to add a deep, rich story. And you're fighting off the Mongol invasion of Japan in the late 1400s. Absolutely stunning, gorgeous open world game, similar to Breath of the Wild. I would say in terms of exploration and being able to look off in the distance, see something there and go, all right, if I can see it, I can get there and I can explore. You can climb pretty much everything in this gaming world. It's a lot of fun and really enjoyable. And again, this has been the game that has just constantly flown off of our shelves. Sony, PlayStation had a very strong year in 2020 with strong single player titles, as I will highlight with this one, as well as the following game, and definitely worth having in your collection. There's an online co-op multiplayer experience to this, but it is downloadable content that you have to download separately of this title. The Last of Us Part 2 is the sequel to the 2013 The Last of Us that came out. It's a post-apocalyptic sort of zombie-based survival game where you need to survive against all odds. Probably one of the most visually stunning games on the PlayStation console. This and Ghost of Tsushima, as I said, have been flying off of our shelves. We have not been able to keep it on the shelf since we purchased them last year. And this game, yes, is excessively violent, so I would recommend it for adults only, hence why it has an M rating to it. But in terms of story, in terms of cinematic, this is definitely a masterpiece in gaming, and so a staple to have within your PlayStation collection. So from the same makers of The Last of Us, so the studio Naughty Dog, prior to this had been known for their Uncharted series. So think of Indiana Jones in a video game format, and you have Uncharted. And so you follow along with protagonist Nathan Drake. Again, these are single player experiences with some multiplayer components, but it's just one of those ones where if you are going to create a staple core PlayStation collection that everyone's going to enjoy, you definitely need to have Uncharted in that list. It's a little lighter emotionally and physically on your brain than The Last of Us is, so it doesn't necessarily get under your skin as much. And it's just a fun adventure across very gorgeous worlds. And so if you can get your hands on the Nathan Drake collection, what it gives you access to is Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, whereas you have to go out of your way to get the standalone expansion that was tacked on to Uncharted 4 called The Lost Legacy, and Uncharted 4 itself, which came out for the PlayStation 4 console, is also a standalone title. So depending on how popular this particular collection is, you can look into getting either The Lost Legacy and or Uncharted 4. Now, Persona 5 Royal is, well, the Persona series itself has traditionally been a very strong series within Japan. Very deep anime roots to it, based around kids who go to a private school in Japan and find themselves, in an alternate role and character, having to fight and thwart a magical evil force. In a nutshell. And whereas the Persona series has been going along for quite some time, Persona 5 has really blown up in popularity, and at least at my library branch, where we have a large circulating manga collection, Persona 5 has been an absolute hit amongst our video gamers who also enjoy our manga and graphic novel collection. Persona 5 Royal, which came out last year, is the definitive version of Persona 5, so it adds on an extra sequence towards the end, fills in the story, adds an extra character along the way, and for a game that's 120 hours in length to complete, similar to Breath of the Wild, it's going to be one of those ones that you can at least guarantee that one patron will need to take out twice, if not 3 times, to complete fully and experience the whole story. Horizon Zero Dawn has been created by a studio named Guerrilla. Again, I keep alluding to Zelda. I cannot help it. Sony has been, in recent years, on a real kick towards creating these open world games and experiences, which I absolutely love. It's an opportunity to sit down in a gaming world and explore everything, everywhere, and talk with a wide range of characters. The 2017 title came out right around the same time as Breath of the Wild, but are quite different games. Whereas Breath of the Wild is a little faster paced, Horizon Zero Dawn is slower, but packs more punch in the story. The abilities that you can unlock are really cool, and as you can tell, it's sort of along the lines of Jurassic Park meets robots. So all the dinosaur-like creatures are actually machines that you have to hunt or befriend along the way. Right now, in 2020, often if you can find a physical copy of this game, it'll be the complete collection of the game. So it'll include the Frozen Wild expansion pack on disc, which is very nice. So any patrons who take it out will have access to everything that this game has to offer. And with a potential sequel on the horizon, no pun intended, this is definitely worth adding to your collection. And good news is the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, called Horizon Forbidden West, will be available on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So you're not limited in which console to get it for. Overwatch is a 2016 staple that I personally argue should be added to any collection for the simple fact that it's a fun single-player cooperative experience. So you're playing online within a team setting. This game has received numerous updates, has expanded its roster by 2 to 3 times its initial size, added numerous maps, and it's just a fun gaming experience for anyone looking for a lighthearted, cartoony-like shooter. Yet shooting isn't always the premise of this game. A lot of your characters may not have guns. They may have hammers. They may have healing wands. And so instead of shooting things to kill them, you're actually having to heal your teammates. And so depending on the role that you want to take within the game, there's a character for you to support that. With Overwatch 2 sort of on the horizon, coming out in 2022 or 2023, it's definitely worth adding this game to your collection. It's relatively cheap to get a physical edition of, often between $20 to $30 Canadian, and is available on both the PlayStation and the Xbox physically, as well as digitally on the Switch. Spider-Man Miles Morales, again, one of those staple games to have, and also on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, depending on which console you want to get it for. Created by the team Insomniac, which I'll highlight in the game or two to come. Again, they have created a living, breathing, amazing Spider-Man world in their first 2018 title, just called Spider-Man, and then in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles Morales is meant as a expansion to the original Spider-Man in a way. So the game itself only takes about 15 hours to complete, whereas the original Spider-Man has about double the playtime. However, you get a entirely different perspective, and so you play as Miles Morales, who is a Puerto Rican Spider-Man, situated in the Bronx of New York City. And so it's just an absolutely wonderful story and game and environment to explore. The power-ups offer more variety than they did in the original Spider-Man, and for something that shows off and showcases in particular the PlayStation 5 console, if you've just added that to your library collection itself for programming purposes, or you're just looking to add games to sort of build up what you can lend out to your patrons, this is an absolute core game to have in your collection, because it's going to be a hit for years to come. Now, I am moving into the realm of PlayStation 5 exclusive games. So Returnal is one of those ones that's only available on the PlayStation 5. If you tried to put this disc into PlayStation 4, it's not going to work. And as of right now, there are no plans to release a PlayStation 4 version of this title in particular. Best way to describe this game, it is a survival horror game. You are trying to solve a mystery of this world that you're trapped in, filled with alien-like creatures. Literally, they remind me a lot of the aliens from Alien. And as you go along, you play through various sessions, and your objective is to get as far as you can, because once you die, you start back right at the very beginning. Catch is, you keep the progress in terms of skills, in terms of currency, in terms of weapons that you've collected along the way, and are told to go back out again and try to get a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. So your patrons may say that this game is very hard. I will admit that it is very hard. But for as punishing as it is, the reward is also worth it as you sort of develop that skill set. It's a very unique experience. Absolutely gorgeous game, and sort of fits within a niche genre of survival horror, coupled with the up and coming genre of rogue likes. So a game where it's never the same environment, it's never the same play style from one session to the other. It's always going to switch up in some way. Now, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. That being said, Final Fantasy VII Remake itself was a 2020 title that came out last year that is available on the PlayStation 4 and can be played on the PlayStation 5. The reason I highlight Intergrade here is if you held off on picking up Final Fantasy VII Remake last year, perhaps because your library was closed due to the pandemic, but you're wanting to sort of rebuild your library your library's collection this year and flesh it out with new titles. Remake Intergrade sort of takes the 2020 remake, bumps up the fidelity, makes it absolutely gorgeous, and adds an extra story chapter to it, where you get to play as the classic Final Fantasy VII character Yuffie and explore her side story. Now, catch is this game does come out tomorrow, so I haven't had a chance to play Intergrade myself yet. Again, if you want to tune in on Friday and again on Monday, Intergrade is going to be one of the games that I do a Let's Play of, as well as review in the future, and I'll do a deeper dive then. But what this game basically allows you to do is highlight the PlayStation 5 for what it is. It gives your patrons an RPG that they can take out. And so unlike the original Final Fantasy, which was a turn-based role-playing game, so a rather slow-paced strategical game style to play, this one opts for a more action-based, you run into environment, you hack and slash away in live action, so you're not pausing the game to process what to do next, but it does give you magical abilities that you can play with. So it's personally one of my all-time favorite games. It was a real joy to play last year, and with the addition of the Yuffie campaign expansion, which I would anticipate is probably going to take anywhere between the 10 to 20 hour range to complete. But again, I stand corrected and wait for reviews to come out to read up on the proper length. But usually with Final Fantasy, they never do anything simply, and you get really rich stories in their expansions. The last game that I will highlight for the PlayStation 5 in particular is a game coming out this Friday called Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So again, from the studio Insomniac, who created the two Spider-Man games and have a very long, candid history with the Ratchet and Clank series in particular, is the newest game in that series. Very family-friendly and kid-friendly game. I absolutely love this game world that they have created. It is a platformer similar to Mario, but has the RPG and cartoonish violence of a game like Splatoon, where you're upgrading various weapons that do silly things. There's a gun in this game that allows you to turn enemies into plants. For example, if you shoot them enough. In prior games, there was the Sheepinator, for example, where you could shoot a magical orb at an enemy that would then turn them into a sheep. So it's sort of a silly, nonsensical game in some ways, but is a very gorgeous showcase on the PlayStation 5 console. Again, with the PlayStation 5 having just come out, and it being a system that's traditionally oriented towards teens and adults, Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy are two great examples of family-friendly titles that mean that even with those who have gone to PlayStation 5, it doesn't limit them to having fun experiences with their children as well. Now, the last series of console that I will cover is the Xbox One and Xbox Series X consoles themselves. Now, unlike the PlayStation, what I really enjoy about the Xbox is that almost the vast majority of their new games coming out will work on any console. The only caveat being that, if it's one that's meant for Xbox One and Xbox Series X, it will, have higher frame rate, higher fidelity, better loading, and just look prettier overall on the Series X, but it's still a very playable experience on the Xbox One if that is what your patron base has at home. Now, I wouldn't be talking about Xbox if I didn't talk about Halo in some capacity. And so the Master Chief Collection is the first staple to have in your gaming collection at the library. If you can find a physical version, so it is offered digitally and physically. This does run for about $40 to $50 Canadian for the physical edition, but it does include the first 4 Halo games. So Halo 1, 2, and 3 and 4 on the disc, and you can also download Halo ODST as well as Halo Reach. So really you're getting 6 Halo games for the cost of, well, half the cost now of a brand new Halo title. This is a 2014 title, but they have added to it throughout the years. So much so that just last month, they've added a new map to this game that had never before been seen on the console edition of Halo 3. So they're still supporting this game even 7 years later. With Halo Infinite, so the newest Halo game on the horizon, so likely to be a holiday 2021 release. Looking at adding the Halo Master Chief Collection to your library's gaming collection is a good idea because you'll have patrons who own Xboxes who may want to explore this series for the first time or just revisit some of their favorite levels. And if your library can provide them that opportunity, this is a great chance to do so. Speaking of Halo, a game that I forgot to add to this list, but also worth checking out just for the sheer amount of games that come in the compilation itself, would be the Rare Replay Collection. So this features a dozen plus games on it, all from the creator Rare. So most well known for their Nintendo franchise of Donkey Kong Country, but also created some really classic gems like the Banjo-Kazooie games on the N64 and the Xbox back in the day. They're responsible for Perfect Dark. They're responsible for classic games from when I was a small child like Jetpack. And so it's a compilation of an arrangement of games, most of which are family-friendly titles, really enjoyable, and definitely one worth picking up if you can find a physical copy of it. Again, $40 to $50 if you can find it in physical edition. It is available digitally as well, and worth having in your collection. Forza Horizon 4 is obviously the 4th game in a long-running series, whereas Forza Motorsport is the more technical track racer of the Forza games. Horizon is an open world. If you see it off in the distance, you can reach it with your vehicle and just drive. And so what I really enjoy about this game is that you get to sit behind the wheels of these hypercars that in real life can go very, very fast and cost millions of dollars. And you can explore England essentially and weave between trees. There are DLC packages available for this game. Again, it's at the discretion of the patrons borrowing this game if they want to add it. But if you're doing library programming, Forza Horizon 4 has my all-time favorite expansion to the series called the Lego Championship. And I kid you not, the entire world that you can drive in is made of Lego. And so, again, you get to drive around in these super fast hypercars, smashing through Lego blocks. And so it is a single player game, so only one person can play at a time, but it's definitely a hoot to have, and it's a game that I have loaded up in my gaming programs at the library. Again, usually if I'm doing a single player game, I will not feature it on our biggest screen, for example. I may have it on a smaller secondary screen or monitor off to the side, so that those who want to play can play, but there's a lot of other multiplayer centric games that they can enjoy in the meantime while they wait for their turn to come up. Just Dance is one that I will highlight on the Xbox series of consoles, but it is available on literally everything. So PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, you can even get it on PC and mobile. And it is in yearly installments. So the latest one is Just Dance 2021. Just Dance 2022 will likely come out late October, early November. That tends to be the period of time when they release the next installment of the series. And it's one of those ones that's an absolute hit at any program that I've hosted. Families love to take it home and play this game. And again, it's one of those ones where you don't even need controllers anymore. You don't need motion detecting cameras anymore like to connect. All you need is a cell phone. If you don't have extra controllers, you download the app on the smart device and you can dance with that instead. It allows for up to 6 players at a time, so it is one of those larger multiplayer games that you can experience. Most of the ones that I highlight today have been usually 4 players at most. Just Dance TowerFall features 6. For example, Smash Brothers has been the largest for multiplayer count, and you can have up to 8 people playing on the screen at once. So I'll just add that here. But Just Dance is definitely one of those ones. It has a whole bunch of hit songs, but also songs from around the world. You can subscribe to their Just Dance Now subscription, which gives you access to the multitude of years backlog of songs that they have available. And with Just Dance having existed now since at least the mid 2000s, if not later 2000s, there's about 10 years now worth of Just Dance songs that you can sort of play from if you want to sign up for that subscription. It Takes Two has been a recent release, so this came out in March of 2021. And has been one of my all-time favorite co-op experiences. To describe it as a platformer would sort of be underrepresenting what this game is. So at its core, it is a platformer, but it switches it up in variety every once in a while. And so you'll find yourself in some situations in a fighting-like game where you're fighting a squirrel. You'll find yourself in like an arcade situation where you're shooting little lasers at a wall, for example. And it's a delightful game that doesn't take itself too seriously and switches up the mechanics enough to keep the game fresh. I say this is a co-op experience because this game is purposely made with 2 people playing at once in mind. And so definitely one that I would recommend if you're doing a library program based on it, making sure it's at a station with 2 controllers only, or for patrons looking for a fun couch co-op experience that they can sit with their partner and play with, or together through, or if they have it's a parent and child that want to play together and have a fun game to play that isn't necessarily Mario or Sackboy, but want something different. It Takes Two is absolutely worth adding to your collection. Very cheap to get, so it's about $30 to $40 Canadian if you can find it on sale, and regular price is about $40, and definitely worth adding to your collection. Immortals Fenyx Rising came out last year, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it is essentially Ubisoft's answer to The Legend of Zelda. So if you've played Breath of the Wild and really love that game, beat it, and want to play something new but is in the same vein of Breath of the Wild, so go anywhere, explore anything, you gain power-ups and new abilities along the way, Fenyx Rising is that game. Set around Greek mythology, you are playing as a half deity, so to speak, that is trying to find their way amongst the world of mortals and gods. Really fun experience. Gameplay takes about 30 to 40 hours to beat the entire game, and there are additional story expansions that patrons can purchase separately if they wish to. It is a single player only experience, so you are limited to only one player. Now, I say the LEGO games in general, they tend to be yearly releases. So every year there's some new LEGO game. And recently, the yearly releases have been different themes. As you can see in the background here, this year's LEGO release is set to be LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which, as you can guess, is a retelling of episodes 1 through 9 of Star Wars. But in years past, they've done things ranging from DC supervillains to Marvel superheroes to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings to the Lego movie video games. Harry Potter has been a popular one at our library. Jurassic Park. Basically any hit franchise out there has been with multiple movies in its series, Lego has approached in some way and made into a game. Very family-friendly title to play through. This does allow up to 4 players and is an absolutely brilliant experience of the game. Very encouraging. This is one I would often recommend to parents coming in, trying to find a new game to play with their kids or to introduce their kids to gaming with. If they have a Switch, great. I will suggest this on top of Mario Kart. But if they only have a PlayStation or an Xbox, the LEGO series of games are available there, and an absolutely fantastic choice to have in your collection. Some of the titles are a little bit harder to find now. For example, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings in physical collections. In physical editions can be hard to find. Some of them are relegated to older generations of consoles now. So, for example, Lego Lord of the Rings is only on the Xbox 360 in physical edition, but you can get digital copies. And of course, they play perfectly on the Xbox One and the Series X, which is very fantastic about its backwards compatibility. Now, similar to Among Us, if you have not heard of Minecraft at this point, I commend you. But, Minecraft is often called a gaming platform to itself, not just a series, because it exists on everything. I'm highlighting it on Xbox because it is a Microsoft-owned franchise, but it's available on Nintendo Switch, on PlayStation, on PC, on phone, just about anything that can run a video game on it has Minecraft, and Microsoft has been fantastic about ensuring cross-platform play. So if you have Minecraft on the Xbox but you want to play with someone on a Nintendo Switch, you can, and with ease. It continues to expand upon itself. Free DLC constantly building upon the game world, adding new mechanics to it. Just recently, as in I think yesterday, they released the new Cliff and Caves update, and so it's a game that's forever growing, forever expanding, and a great game to introduce kids to. I run Minecraft programming by itself, so separate of my video gaming hour, I have done just solely Minecraft programs that have filled up and been waitlisted, so much so that I've had to create multiple program sequences of it to host everyone. This is a great game to have in your library collection. And if you're looking at a more permanent investment, you can also look into getting the Minecraft Education Edition, which allows for more coding and creative structure building oriented gameplay versus just the general regular game itself. Now, definitely game in its structure. Minecraft Dungeons released last year, and so if you've ever heard of the top-down sort of RPG named Diablo, Minecraft Dungeons is Diablo meets Minecraft. So it's an RPG. You're going around, bird's eye view, taking down enemies and creatures and villains from the Minecraft world, and you are picking up loot as you go along, and that loot are new weapons, new accessories that make your character more powerful. Again, very fun game, available not just on the Xbox but the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation series of consoles. It is not fully cross play compatible, so well, you can play with other users if you have a Nintendo Switch and an Xbox. If I'm not mistaken, you can't play with other PlayStation players. PlayStation is still solely locked onto its own console ecosystem. But an absolute gem of a game. And again, if you're looking to introduce your kids to Diablo but don't want to show them the actual violence of a Diablo game, Minecraft Dungeons is a good introduction to that. And it allows for up to 4 players to play on one screen at the same time locally, so it's a great multiplayer game to have. I remember fondly growing up with Gauntlet in the 90s, and so Minecraft Dungeons reminds me a lot of that. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a 2017 title. Very one-of-a-kind game. Not a very long game, so it's only about 8 to 10 hours, and is cheap to find nowadays, so often about $20 to $30 Canadian. And the reason I highlight this game is because it has a very one-of-a-kind, unique story set in a fantasy world, but deals with the inner struggles and torments of mental health disorders. And it does so in very creative and respectful manners. It's a game that when I lend it out to patrons, I strongly recommend, if you can in any way, either play with a gaming headset or plug, some earbuds into your controller, because the audio, visual cues in this game are second to none. And it's a very unique experience. I really like what Ninja Theory, the studio behind this game, has done, and I have a lot of respect. I'm not sure if they're still doing it nowadays, but when this game first released, a lot of the proceeds that they were developing and garnering from this game were going to help support different mental health organizations across the world. And so I absolutely commend the work that they've done. And supposedly, sometime in the next couple of years, there should be a Hellblade 2 coming out, following Senua and continuing along with her story. Now, the last game I will highlight is one that I've been playing recently, an absolute gem of a game to have, and that is Mass Effect Legendary Collection. An absolutely fantastic series of role-playing games. This is sort of like an action RPG. Think of the best of Star Wars, the best of Star Trek, combined in a sci-fi epic where you are a human trying to save the universe from destruction with a ragtag motley crew of aliens. And so very wonderful work behind this. The Legendary Collection features all 3 Mass Effect games as well as all of their DLC. As this just released last month, it is still at full price, so around $80 Canadian, so $60 American, but an absolute value to have in your collection. Again, right now, this game is the biggest thing around, so we cannot keep it on our shelves and have many holds on it. And, if you want to wait for a price drop, EA games tend to drop in price after a month or two, but even at full price, it is definitely worth picking up this game and adding it to your collection. And it's not only available on the Xbox, but also on the PlayStation and PC. I just highlight the Xbox version of it because if you have a Series S or X, it plays phenomenally well with the highest frame rates possible and resolution. So these have been some of my recommendations for the top 10 games that you can pick up for either your emerging game collections in the PlayStation series of consoles, the Xbox series of consoles, or for the Nintendo Switch. These are some of the resources that I used along the way. And Again, if you ever have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Tune in every week for new episodes of Intro to Gaming and Libraries. You can also tune in on Fridays for my Let's Play, Sundays for gaming narratives, and on Mondays I will be doing new game reviews. And this week is looking to be chock-a-block full between Ratchet and Clank, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and Game Builder Garage. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again. This has been Chris the Gaming Librarian, and I'm signing out.